and we're going to have some fun. Now, am I missing anything? Oh, no campaign literature on the property. You can bring your cards in, and after the thing, you can pass them out. But I am a nonpartisan. Although I'm a Democrat, my organization is nonpartisan. Again, I want to thank you. I want to thank Kathy Adams, moderator. I want to thank Pastor Joe Flint, and I want to thank Pastor Chris, and I'm going to turn it over to the moderators. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kathy Adams, and I will serve as one of the moderators for the evening. I'd like to say welcome. Welcome to the District 38 Senate seat. This is the candidates forum where you will hear more about the candidates who are running for this seat, why they want to be your next public servant to serve in that seat, what their vision, their values, and their views are, and a little bit how they plan to run the Senate, how they plan to work across the aisles, if they want to work across the aisles. They will share with you just a little bit of their insight, how they plan to use their one vote across the state of Georgia. So without further ado, I'd like to say that both of the candidates were invited. They have, we are now in the runoff, and they are asking for your vote. And it is going to be tough to get everybody back out for the runoff, but we remain hopeful, and we are going to elect the best candidate. So without further ado, let me give you a few housekeeping rules for the evening. Each of the candidates will have 1.5 minutes for their opening statement. Following, they will have 2 minutes to share their closing statement. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each of the questions. And do know that the moderator will ask the questions in the order that he or she chooses. Each candidate will have the same number of questions, but they may not have the same question. If they do, it will be in random order. The timekeeper will sound the bell when the time is up, and we see the time here. And if a candidate continues to talk beyond the allocated amount of time, they will be interrupted and asked to stop. We will accept questions from our audience on index cards, and we will accept questions from our virtual audience via the chat. And they will be sent to both Pastor Joe and I, and we will ask those questions, and we will vet them so that we don't ask the same question 5 different ways. So again, each candidate will have the same number of questions, but they may not have the same question. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and turn this over to Pastor Joe, and he's going to share some additional information with you this evening.
Thank you, Kathy. And again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Georgia State Senate District 38 Candidates Forum. In this year's election, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 candidates that have qualified to run for this vacant seat. All of the candidates have been invited to participate, and as you see, both of them are here this evening. Each candidate will share his information with you about themselves as to why they are the best candidate for the position to represent the residents of Georgia's Senate District 38. Each of the candidates is seeking to govern, create policy, manage budgets, and be a visionary creating long-term plans for sustainable growth, more so lead with tact and diplomacy. As Kathy mentioned earlier, our timekeeper will keep the time and will sound the bell when the statements or when the time has allotted. If the candidate goes beyond his time, they will be interrupted by myself or Kathy. This is not Sunday morning, so I can't say that the organist will do so, but we'll make sure you stop. Tonight, we are presenting information to voters in a fair, nonpartisan setting. So without further ado, let's get this forum started and get the show on the road. Now, I'll turn the floor over to our candidates to introduce themselves. First, in alphabetical order, by last names. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to share their opening statement. And again, by alphabetical order, Mr. Kemp.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much to Ms. Chatman for hosting this forum, and thank you so much to Ms. Adams once again for being here, and Pastor Flint, thank you so much as well. My name is RaShaun Kemp, and I'm running to be your next state senator in Senate District 38. Because I believe now is the time for us to elect new progressive leaders to lead our community and to lead our state. We are living in an environment in which Women and children now have fewer rights than they did just a few years ago. My passion for running is my daughter, Brooklyn, who now has fewer rights than women prior to her. My son, Jaden, who grows up and is learning in an environment where people are trying to limit what he can learn in school. And so I believe that we need new leaders that will step up to the plate to fight for our rights, to fight for women's rights, to fight for an economy for all, and fight to make sure that our voting rights are protected. MAGA Republicans are trying to stop us from that. And I believe that we need a Democrat in this seat that is going to step up and fight and also be willing to work across the aisle. I was raised by my great grandmother, Graham, who taught me that if you stay ready, you won't have to get ready. And I believe that my leadership has proven me to be ready to take on this role, having turned around to failing high school, having worked in state government, and also working across the country to support Black and brown charter schools that are founded by people of color. And so I believe now is the time to elect me to go down to the Capitol, because when you click my name, you will know that I'm reliable, ready to take on this responsibility, and I am
Thank
someone
you
that
very
will deliver
much.
results. Thank you.
Mr. Long.
Well, I want to thank Damita, Chapman, Mr. Flint, Miss Adams. Thank you for having. Is this mic on? I guess it's on. For having me here today. I'm a former legislator. I'm hoping to continue the work that I did as a legislator. The things that you will hear tonight are not about things that I'm going to do. It's about things that I've done before in the past as a former state legislator. I've been to the General Assembly. I've represented a very complex district that traversed across the municipalities of 3 different cities, Atlanta, East Point, and College Park. There's some pretty challenging demographics there between Stanton and DeLoe. I'm there to fight for my inspiration, which is my son. I'm raising a young Black man, and I know that our police are killing Black men. Just like this district is newly reapportioned and moved out and moved into a different position, the MAGA Republicans or Republicans alike are trying to actually stir up our districts to keep confusion so that we won't vote in this nearest November election. And as a Democrat, I'm a proud Democrat to the day I die. I'm here to support Democratic issues that are germane to improving Democratic policies and to govern for Democratic policies and initiatives. In addition to that, education is at stake. Education is a major component of what I'm running for, to protect free public education, to protect the rights of women. I'm married to a wife. I love a wife. I love women. I'm well trained. I've been married 19 years.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this forum started. I will ask the first question, and here's the question. Should the state of Georgia improve access to safe, affordable housing by increasing the affordable housing supply, protecting tenants' rights to habitable living conditions, and cracking down on negligence or abuse by property management companies or landlords? Mr. Kemp.
Yes, absolutely. We should be doing all that we can to ensure that people can afford their homes. For many people, the getting up into the next level is through housing and buying your homes. And in addition to that, having talked and spoke with so many seniors across the district, I believe that we need to implement rent control. Right now, Georgia does not allow local municipalities to implement rent control, and that's something that I will fight for down at the Capitol. In addition to that, working to ensure that we are increasing the supply of affordable housing and also limiting the amount of folks that can come in, these investors that buy up properties in our communities and then charge sky-high rates but do not care for the properties in our communities. And so there's a lot of concerns, even in communities, like mine, where you have investors coming in and buying up so many homes. We have to do more to protect the right to home ownership and also ensuring that rent is not increasing so much in our communities. I remember speaking to a senior. She's paying $400 a month with some subsidies, but just a little over a year, she's going to have to pay $1,000 per month, and that is ridiculous. And I think that we need to do more to protect our seniors and protect our legacy residents in our communities.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. This question is for Mr. Long. Mr. Long, we have heard and seen that the Atlanta airport has been a hub for human trafficking. And so my question to you is, do you support funding, whether it be both federal and state, for data collection on human trafficking? Why or why not?
Well, I get scared when it comes down to tracking people of any, data. I don't trust our government with tracking data for people. However, I do support whatever's necessary on keeping touch with those who are being human trafficked. It's unfortunate that our airport is being used that way, and I really support that issue. But I would need to learn more about that. The data component bothers me. But policing and whatever's necessary to prohibit trafficking of our kids and of our people is most definitely necessary. And I just don't like our government tracking or saying that they're going to track people or do anything above that. And so I can, I'm not perfect. I can learn more about that issue, but human trafficking most definitely is something that I'm willing to get behind and support, and investigate and learn about, and to actually support that issue in different ways. But one thing as a legislator, you can say, there are all kind of a multitude of issues coming at you, but there's no pride and lost pride in me saying, hey, I want to investigate that. But I get scared with the way the question was phrased about data tracking. And so I don't want to be tracked. I support privacy too as well. But we need to stop human trafficking. I have nieces. I have 5 beautiful nieces. And
Thank you, Mr. Long.
Next question. What is your position on maternal mortality in Georgia, and how will you work to support your response? Mr. Long.
when you say maternal, you like babies.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm going to most definitely, I don't think that I should be a part of the discussion. I think it cringes me when my seatmate, Representative Ed Sessler, talks about abortion and women's rights to abortion, and he's a man. I want women to sit at the table and make that decision. I don't want to be in the room. Fortunately, with me being married, I was entrusted with something that I gave my wife. I earned the right to have a child with her, and she said, you know what, I'm going to reward you with motherhood. I had to earn that from my wife, and and that was my wife's decision. Once we decided to do that together, that's her body. That's her body. And I don't have any kind of say in what she should say. I think that if women caucused together and made a decision about women's health or women's abortion rights, then I would support that decision. But it's unfortunate to me that a lot of men are at the table speaking about women's rights and women's health care and stuff. And one, they don't live with a woman every day. They're not married to a woman, or they are a legislator who is just like not a woman and is not speaking to women on actually deliberating about the details of what they're talking about. So I think women should be a part of women's decisions, women's health care, women's rights, and there shouldn't even be men part of the discussion. That should be a closed door session with the caucus of women making decisions about women's rights and women's health care.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Kemp, do you support the creation of an independent redistricting commission for the state of Georgia? If so, why?
Absolutely. I think that we need to take politics out of our elections. As we see, we're sitting here because Senate District 38 was reapportioned. And it was much a surprise to many Democrats that Judge Jones accepted the maps that were drawn. I see our newly elected here, Representative-elect Dawson, and all of us were impacted in this area because of the lines being redrawn. And it was because Republicans wanted to keep their power in the state legislature. And so we need to do more to create bipartisan ways to develop our electoral lines. And I think that if we did that, we would see better representation and we would have more competitive races in November. Right now, too many races are decided in primaries, and that is unfair to voters. And we see lines that are drawn in which are drawing communities that do not have like interest. For example, in this community, you have Sandy Springs and you have City of South Fulton. There are so many disparities within this district alone that I think that would be resolved if we had fair lines drawn. And so absolutely, I do agree with that.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Next question. House Bill 123 and Senate Bill 51. Sales and use taxes for certain menstrual products are to make them exempt. There are 29 other states that are exempt. Over the past 4 years, the citizens of Georgia have pushed to pass legislation to remove sales tax on menstrual products, saving Georgians an average of 4% on sales tax. Would you support this legislation? Why or why not? And this question is for Mr. Kemp.
Absolutely, I would support this legislation. I think it is a additional unfair tax on women that products that they need for their everyday life is taxed. And so I am astonished at the fact that, you know, Republicans even have a Speaker Pro Tem that is a female, but they keep striking this bill down. We need to get this bill passed to reduce the amount of taxes that are placed on women. And honestly, unlike my opponent, I believe that we have to be in the room when they have these conversations, because you're electing one of us to serve you and represent you in the community. So I absolutely think that we need to make sure that we are fighting on every issue, because you send us down there to be your voice. And that's why I'm standing here before you today.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Long, can you please tell me, do you support the funding of the Center for Disease Control to research the cause of firearm violence? If so, why?
Well, absolutely. I mean, people are getting killed every day. And let me speak to his, that was when you have the experience in being in the General Assembly, you know the difference between one issue and another. I was speaking about the abortion discussion for women, not about taxing menstrual products. And so women have to pay for bras, they have to pay for all kind of extra stuff that men don't do. We're just walking around happy lucky. And so, of course, I would support that. But when it comes down to abortion, I don't want to be at the table with that. I think a woman should speak over her body. And yes, I would. Can you repeat your question? Because I wanted
Sure.
I want to
Do you
respond.
support funding? Do you support funding the Center for Disease Control?
Yes,
To research the causes of firearm violence?
I absolutely do. And it's getting hot out here, and so that means that we have more gun violence in this this city right here. And as a former legislator between Stanton and DeLoe, we had 4 murders a month sometimes during the summer times that I had to actually draw up legislation for in the General Assembly. And so I would absolutely support the CDC and any kind of studies that they want to do associated with gun violence in America. It is most definitely an epidemic. And yes, my answer in short, yes, absolutely.
Thank you so very much.
The next question, Mr. Kemp, should the state of Georgia expand Medicaid? Why or why not?
The state of Georgia absolutely needs to expand Medicaid. There is a crisis in this state, and we are leaving federal funding on the table as a result of it, and people are losing their lives as well. And so this community that we're in right now is in a hospital desert. That is one of the motivations for me running. I live in a community in which my life, my children's lives could be at stake if an emergency happened, because there's no full service hospital south of I-20. And a lot of that is as a result of our governor not willing to expand Medicaid, something that many other states, even Republican states, have been willing to do. And so my belief is that once you send me down to the legislature, I will be one of those positive casting votes to expand Medicaid in Georgia finally once and for all, so that more people have access to hospitals south of I-20 and across the state in rural communities as well.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Long, what is your position on enacting work requirements for human needs or federal assistance programs such as Medicaid, supplemental nutrition assistance programs, which is known as SNAP, or temporary assistance for needy families, TANF?
Well, I tell you what, anybody can be needy at any time. My position is to support those efforts. My position is to help people out. And just like our governor, you know, he'll, in regards to healthcare, he won't expand Medicaid, but he's inventing something new. But if you look between the fine lines of what he's inventing as far as his policy and his Medicaid, other part, the thing that he's working on, he's saying you have to work. You have to work. Or attaching something to it for his healthcare work. I can tell you that people, like for instance, my labor, I was just endorsed by labor, and her husband just had an aneurysm. she might not be able to work right now. So we don't, I support what your question was in addition to that. And I support, so with the caveat saying, without the additional work component too, a temporary reprieve would be great on demanding something like that, because I know there are many people who are hurting today who have something that need subsidies, that need health care, that need support temporarily. And they're not able to meet a mandate that justifies saying I have to work. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes.
Thank you.
Next question, Mr. Kemp. Should the state of Georgia expand voter access by allowing same-day voter registration, removing obstacles to voting by mail, and making secure ballot drop boxes accessible at all times through Election Day? If so, why?
Yes, to all of that. One of my greatest memories of me and Graham is going voting with her. And I think that's what struck a chord to eventually make me interested in politics. But I remember going behind the curtains back in the day, and you used to have to pull the levers in order to select the person that you want to represent you. And MAGA Republicans are trying to do everything they can to limit voting, because they know that when we vote, we change our communities. When we change our communities, we change our cities. When we change our city, we change the state. When we change the state, we change this country. Our voices matter, and they're trying to limit our voices. And so I definitely support same-day voter registration. I will fight against attempts that limit how people are able to vote. We saw already efforts to stop people from getting when they get their IDs, they tried to stop them from automatically getting voter registration. They wanted to make it something you had to opt in. That's just another example of them trying to find ways to stop us from voting. And so I support all of those efforts, and I believe we should take it further, and that Election Day should be a state holiday. People should have that day off to emphasize the importance of, speaking your voice and making sure that your policies that you stand for, the people you support, are elected. And if we do that, I think that we can truly change this country and make sure that criminals like Donald Trump are never elected again into office.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kemp. It's another question directed at you. Do you support universal background checks for gun sales?
Yes, I support any type of gun safety reform that is going to keep our community safe. As a Black man, it is alarming to me and concerning to me that so many of us die as a result of firearms. In addition to that, I am very concerned about what our governor has done, allowing folks to be able to carry guns and stopping people from having to get licensed even for that, because those are efforts that can help to find people that should not have guns from having guns. So I support any type of common sense gun reform, making sure that people are charged with domestic violence do not have weapons in their persons, because we have to keep our community safe. And it is nonsense to say that it's just mental health that is the issue of gun violence. In order to commit gun violence, you have to have a gun. And so we have to do more to protect our communities. And I support any type of common sense gun reform.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the next question, this is for you, Mr. Long. Should the state of Georgia incentivize clean energy production as part of climate policy that recognizes the urgent threat that climate change possesses to Georgians' health, their lives, and their future?
Absolutely, Ms. Adams. I totally support that. I served on natural resources and environments when I was in the General Assembly. And some of the things that are happening to our waterways and some of the decisions that the Republicans are making are just egregious. We live in Georgia, which is a beautiful environment, a beautiful state. And because of the Chattahoochee River, it's vital to what's downstream. And being a part of the Natural Resources Environments Committee, I knew how to and protect it and voted against legislation that would harm Florida's oysters population down there, and to make sure that our state wasn't getting sued all the time for the outrageous policies that the Republicans are trying to do. They will do anything for $1, and serving on natural resources environments are already prevented lots of contaminants in our waterways, and particularly, like, for instance, the stream in Perkison Park. I advocated on the issues of pentachlorophenol, where pentachlorophenol is a carcinogenic preservative to extend the shelf life of a telephone pole between 7 and 35 years. I kept that from being leached over into our water environments, and any kind of outdated EPA environmental studies done in our neighborhood that were only in the 70s, I updated those and made sure that people knew about those particular subjects affecting my constituents' health within my district.
Thank you so much. Mr. Long, coming right back at you. Do you believe that convicted felons should lose their right to cast the ballot? If yes, how do you think those rights should be restored, if at all?
Well, those rights should be restored if, let's say you're selling marijuana and the state makes it legal, then we need those voters back. We need those guys to be able to vote. And if it's nonviolent crimes, why do we have to lose the right to vote if it's a nonviolent crime? Those are ways to marginalize Black people. And we need a senator inside the Senate who's going to speak up on those issues and who's not concerned about extending their time and their tenure in the Senate. Unfortunately, a lot of times people are passing by major issues that they should speak up on, and it's their responsibility to speak up on. And as a state legislator, I never did that. I took on the hardcore issues, not fearing that it might not preserve my longevity in office, because the day that happened, I would feel that I would be a unqualified representative. So as a senator, I promised to speak up on those issues that are complex and to make sure that we can prevent those kinds of things from happening. I want to be there as your senator you can get my cell number at 770-616-2130. My style is constituent service. I dare you call me on the complex issues like that and watch me fight for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next question: should the United States and the state of Georgia protect Georgians from gun violence by banning assault weapons and large capacity magazines, closing background check loopholes, and passing other common sense gun safety reforms? Mr. Kemp.
Yes, absolutely. We need to do all that we can to protect our communities and protect our constituents. No one should have weapons that are designed for war. And so I think that we absolutely need to have an assault weapons ban. As I stated earlier, we need to do everything that we can. The vast majority of Georgians, of Americans, support common sense gun safety reforms. And I think it's time for us to act on that. And I think that we need to send somebody down to the Capitol that's going to fight for these things, and not to believe that, oh, we're in the minority, so we should not speaking up and being vocal about issues that are impacting our community and progressive issues that we believe in. That is the responsibility of who you're going to send down to the Capitol. We cannot have these old school politics that say, well, we're in the minority, so we're just going to sit this out. We have to go down and fight on every issue that we believe is important and will impact our community.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Long, I want to ask you, do you support policies that provide affordable health care, including access to abortion care for all lawfully present immigrants?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They're on our soil. We're going to just let them die here. They're on our soil. We need to take care of the people who are on our soil, because this is America. And I'm tired of classism. I'm tired of racism. I'm tired of people saying, hey, you can't get health care. Those folks are on the buses with us. They're in our trains with us. They're in our grocery stores. So I prefer them to be healthy, period, because I don't want something that, their lack of ability to get health care affecting me or passing the germ over to me. And we could be more diligent about if they're paying taxes, if they're here legally. But while they're here, let's most definitely make sure that they do have access to those things. Compassion for people is what we're lacking right now in our politics, in our care in the United States of America. And so freedom. People are dying to get freedom right now. People in Ukraine are fighting for their lives to get the freedom right now. And so we should be the example for democracy when those people are trespassing on our soil to take care of them if they're sick and if they need some things, because many of them have crawled and swam to get here just to get those services because they weren't able to do that in their home. And we need compassion for people and love for people in our politics. So I do agree with that question, Mr. Flint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next question: Should the state of Georgia protect reproductive freedom by repealing the current 6-week abortion ban, restoring the protections of Roe v. Wade, and ensuring access to contraceptives, IVF abortions, and reproductive health care? Mr. Kemp.
Yes, absolutely. And this goes to the question earlier that my opponent got to say that he wants to be out of the room. I am a senator that needs to be in the room because I do not believe it is taking anything from women to speak up on issues that are impacting our communities. I have a daughter. I was raised by a mother, raised by my great grandmother. And it is important that women have the right to make decisions about their bodies. We should not be banning abortions at 6 weeks when many women don't even know that they're pregnant. You know, my opponent speaks about speaking up for complex issue. This is a complex issue that we have to speak up and speak out on. And you are sending someone down to the Capitol. We have to have a vote. We have to have a voice. So we cannot say in this Pollyannish world that, oh, all the women are just going to go in and decide. We have to have somebody that's going to go in and speak up. And I truly believe that's why Nkoyo Effiong-Lewis, our former opponent, is endorsing me in this race, because she was passionate about those issues. She wanted those issues to be center of our conversation. And so we just can't sit back and say, well, there's no woman in the race. We're not a woman, so we can't be a part of that conversation. We have to speak up and ensure that women have access to the health care, to make decisions about growing their families, and make decisions when they want to grow their families. So I think that is why you need to send me down to the Capitol to be a voice for our community.
Not quite, sir. Not quite. Thank you. I think it's safe to say that everyone in this room was born of a mother. I think that's safe to say. Mr. Kemp, I have a question for you. What is your position on private school vouchers, including tuition, tax, credits, and education savings accounts?
Yeah, I am fully opposed to that. I'm a former high school principal. I turned around to failing high school. I work in the education space, have done so my whole life. And what the Republicans passed to give $6,500 to families that are in failing schools is a red herring. Many families that want to send their children to different school would not even be able to afford to send their children to that private school. What that is doing is just taking money out of our public education system, and it's not allowing for us to do the things that we need to do. We need to be making sure that teachers are paid at minimum across the state of Georgia, $65,000 per year, to respect and honor the service that they provide to our communities. We need to increase the literacy rates in our state. There are over 60% of kids do not read on grade level, and we can't do that if we keep taking our public dollars and sending it to private schools. And then finally, all children in the state should not have to go hungry in school. It should not be any separating kids because they weren't able to pay. So in order to do that, we need to make sure that all children receive free lunch and breakfast in our schools. And we can't do those things if we keep taking money out of private schools and giving millionaire families tax breaks to send their children to private schools.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So the next question: should the state of Georgia raise the minimum wage to a living wage? Mr. Long.
Oh, absolutely. Most definitely. Some people are working right now and, you know, they're working 8-9-hour jobs and can't afford to live within the city. And it's important that we increase their buying ability so that we can have those services remain in the city. And I want to respond back to my opponent. It's funny, he's being endorsed by Nkoyo. Nkoyo is a part of a special group affiliation. She ran for school board before then when I defeated her because she was a part of vouchers in charter schools. And my opponent has sent out 2 texts funded by AFT, or Atlanta, the Federation of Teachers, quote unquote, all children can learn, all children matter. These particular groups right here support vouchers, support charter schools, and are the same thing. And so, yes, we do need to increase the minimum wage, but we also need to watch who we send to office, because they're coming at you in smoke and mirrors and things like that. And you're wondering, why are you a part of these groups right here? So they'll cluster together. I wasn't expecting to get Nkoyo's endorsement. And if she runs for APS school board again, I'll most definitely be there in my city to make sure that she is fully on board with free public education. And that's what we have to support. And we need to raise and speaking of that, we need to increase our teachers' salaries too. as well as those who are getting minimum wage in free public education, free public education, free public education.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Long. Mr. Long, a question coming right back at you. Do you believe that it's beneficial to work across the aisles?
I've always focused on the whole pie in the General Assembly. When I was a representative-elect, I called all Republicans, all Democrats in my district alike, and all senators, Republican senators, because you never know when you need something like the heat and ACs or some kind of facility maintenance components that only Republicans who are in power can provide for you, such as Atlanta Area Tech, Atlanta Technical College. Those kids right there would be hot in the summer and cold in the winter had I not worked on the other side of the aisle to get new heating and ACs within those districts. And any municipalities, any schools or anything, while the Republicans are in power in this district, you're going to have a good rapport with them, unfortunately, even though you'll be looking at them twisted, to get the resources in play. Until we can get to 91 in the House and 29 in the Senate, we need to work on the whole pie, the whole General Assembly. And I think that putting out those great democratic values will win over the people in their districts. And I'm willing to fight for that. And that's what I've done before as a former legislator of State House District 61. That's the same I'll do for you in Senate District 38. I'm used to it. And having constituent service is what I'm all about. So yes, thank you, I will. And yes, we need to work on the whole aisle, the whole pie.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Long.
Thank you. Next question. What is your position on maternal mortality in Georgia, and how will you work to support your response, Mr. Kemp?
So maternal mortality is a major issue in this state. And I want to be clear that maternal mortality is speaking about the alarming rate of especially Black women that are dying as a result of giving birth. Black women are 3 times more at risk to die as a result of giving birth than their peers in this state. And so we need to do more on educating and expecting more from our doctors, making sure that we are empowering doulas and midwives. Studies show that when Black women have extra advocates and voices in the room, they save their lives. Folks that are famous are not immune. Serena Williams is a famous case. So we need to do more to protect mothers. And I just want to make sure that, while we're speaking of that, we make clear Ms. Lewis is not in this race, but she was. And Mr. Long, you reached out for her endorsement. So I think it's very unfair to try to cast a negative light on her when you're saying you defeated her in a race. You did not run for school board, but you did reach out for her endorsement. So let's be, real here. So that's what we need to change. This is a totally different expectation of politics that we need to have in our community, not demeaning folks, saying one thing behind closed doors and then another thing in public. So that's why it's important to send the right people to office.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Long, we know that in this district, and I don't know the numbers specifically, but homelessness is at an all-high, is at the greatest rate ever. What do you see as a state legislator is your role in combating the homelessness in the state of Georgia, but specifically in this district?
Well, unfortunately, we've moved away from mental institutions, and also we need to make sure that we are in our early grades, invest in literacy programs for our children, and also get out there and show compassion. We need to actually house our homeless. And I propose legislation that gives them the choice, because as a former legislator, I've walked in the woods and talked to some homeless people down on Metropolitan Parkway. And there are a lot of Vietnam vets. Some like the way they're living, and that's unfortunately, but they do. But then there are some people who want to reach out for help, and we need to give those people willing to reach out for help, the help that they need. And as far as my colleague who was defeated before, I was hoping she would come into the light on the good side. I mean, maybe she wanted to run for school board or something like that again. But, in politics, we have relationships, and it was just a minor detail that I noticed given my experience as a legislator. And given that the fact that I've been in politics all my life, my aunt was the first Black woman on Atlanta City Council. So I can just add 2 and 2 together and realize that if you're supporting vouchers, then most likely you're not going to be successful in the bid for a school board. And that's just what the nature of that right there. So yes, I did reach out to her for support. Maybe she could come out into the light and be part of this free public education candidate, this free public education platform.
Thank you so much, Mr. Long.
Thank you. Next question. This is for Mr. Kemp. There was a House Bill 1032, which would make it illegal for HOAs to foreclose on a home because of unpaid fees. What is your position on this? Why or why not?
My position on 1032 and on HOAs is that HOAs should not be allowed to foreclose on people's properties. The pathway to the American dream for many people in Black and brown communities is through home ownership. And so HOAs are created to take care of public spaces, to ensure that there's commonality within communities, to ensure safety in communities that may be gated. And so I believe that in many instances, the power of HOAs has been far more reaching than what we anticipated and expected. And I don't think that very many people would agree that a family should lose their home because of HOA fees. And so I think that we need to do more to work on this issue. And I know folks down at the Capitol are addressing that. And so I look forward to being a part of the Senate Democratic Caucus to fight against some of these ways that are taking away our opportunity to even advance our families in the American dream.
Thank you so very much. Mr. Long, earlier, the conversation, Mr. Kemp mentioned about the disparity against North and South of I-20. And this has been an ongoing thing in the community for forever. And so the question is, how do we do away with the disparity or the disenfranchisement of north of I-20 to the south of I-20 in your district?
One, we need to address we're getting redlining real estate. The fact that their homes are, if they add a kitchen counter, some nail lift to their kitchen countertop, and their values goes up almost twofold. And in minority communities, we've been robbed of that chance. It's amazing driving through Sandy Springs. You can't see the old houses. The old ranches have been torn down because they're able to buy and then consistently improve. And when they put that equity into their home, it's realized in true value, multiple times fold in the value of their home, allowing them to refinance and refinance and refinance. And that's why the houses are big like that. Until we address real estate redlining and those issues, we're going to continue to do that. There's a lot of commonality in Sandy Springs and Buckhead too as well. These State Senate District 38 is a bedroom community district. So there are no major commercial districts, commercial sectors, except for around DeForest Ferry and various ones in Union City with the warehouses and things like that in the city of South Fulton. But for the most part, it's just communities, it's houses. So we need to address housing concerns and racial redlining in the banks to affect that and to eradicate those disparities.
Thank you.
So thank you. Mr. Long, one more question for you. Should the state of Georgia expand voter access by allowing same-day voter registration, removing obstacles to voting by mail, and making secure ballot drop boxes accessible at all times through Election Day? If so, why or why not?
The why is a great question. I mean, when I go to the ATM, I've never gotten the wrong amount of money. I've never gotten the wrong. We can do it there. We can do it in our elections. We should be able to vote on the phone. We should be able to vote in an encrypted app anytime that we want to for a particular candidate during a particular allotment of time. These policies, our voting process is kept antiquated for a reason, and that's to disenfranchise minority communities from voting. And that's why State Senate District 38, the lower portion of it right now, was formerly Senator Donzella James, who I have that endorsement too, by the way, of Senator Donzella James. So I have the lower portion of her district right now. And this is all done, reapportionment every 2 years with the Republican Party in power to disenfranchise, to discombobulate, and to confuse voters. And so I think that we've got to make sure that town halls are being given by our legislators to educate people more frequently I haven't had any town halls or seen any town halls. I'm not, maligning my colleagues, but state representatives doing what Ms. Damita Chatman is doing right now, holding this forum will be truly good during this election. We haven't had one state representative to hold a forum to educate us about the new changes at the Capitol. And I, as your senator, would do that.
Thank you, Mr. Long. And this is our final question, ladies and gentlemen. Just a reminder that each candidate has been asked the same amount of question, and it just so happened that this final question is going to Mr. Kemp. Mr. Kemp, what do you believe are reasonable remedies to address rising hate crimes and incidents in our state?
Yeah, so as a proud member of the LGBTQ community, I am also a Black man and part of the Hispanic community. And it's about having conversations and getting to know our neighbors, getting to know people and realizing that hate has no place in our state. Atlanta is known as a city too great to hate. We need to make sure that Georgia is that state. We have to send better representation down to our capital because voices matter, representation matters. We need to make sure that there are diverse people down at our capital, diverse voices speaking up for the issues that are impacting our families and our communities. At the end of the day, all of our families want to live, thrive, and live healthy lives and in our state. And if we can see that and understand that about each other, I think that we can change the way that our politics is ran, change the way that people are, demeaned in our communities. And so it's important to have diverse voices down at the Capitol. I think that is why we see so many, hateful things happening. That's not going to change everything. But we also need to make sure that we have anti-discrimination laws. Georgia is one state that is very unwilling to do that. And so we need to make sure that we're fighting and speaking up for all of our communities. And I think that will help to change the tone and tenor in our communities as it relates to hate speech and other things.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard from both of the candidates who are vying to serve as the next state senator in District 38. And this is again, one of those redrawn district lines. Previously, Senator Horacina Tate served as the senator for this particular district. And again, it has been, the district lines have been redrawn. So now that you've heard from both of the candidates, I'm going to allow them to go ahead and give you their closing statement. And in that closing statement, they'll have 2 minutes to close out. You're going to share a little bit about their platform, their vision, how to get in contact with them. You want a yard sign, get money, or volunteer, what have you. Whatever it is they want you to know, this is their opportunity to share that with you. And again, we're going to go in alphabetical order by last name, but then we're going to flip it. Mr. Kemp went first. We're going to allow Mr. Long to go first this time. So, Mr. Long, you have 2 minutes to give us a closing statement.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, I'm a former state legislator. I think you can see that. You get a good bargain for my vote. I'm very progressive. I am married. I have a son, a beautiful Black son who's going through Mays High School right now. I voted for every piece of LGBTIQ and the whole alphabet of issues in favor of those issues in the General Assembly. So let me encapsulate his whole entire platform. What I won't be a part of is voting for charter schools. I played in this church right here. This church right here has the best Easter egg hunts. I don't know, when I was a kid, this yard right here was huge. I've played football in this community at Sandtown Park. This is my home. I didn't just come off the boat from up north and somewhere saying, hey, I just want to be in a Senate position in the Capitol just because of whatever. I'm a former legislator. I fought for you. My cell number is 770-616-2130. Worked on issues such as pentachlorophenol, murders, been in it crying with mothers who are murdered. Worked on legislation involving hate crimes with Senator Fort. That experience matters. And in this district where my predecessor, Senator Tate, I do love her, but she's missed 3 years of voting primarily, approximately. So we don't have the time for the acclimation period of this young man right there who's eloquently speaking. I would give him that. But when it comes down to the substance, will he represent your best interests and things? And do we have the acclimation time to make sure that during this session, he has the connections to line up who's in charge of what to affect issues that are germane to your quality of life? And that is me as your senator. Vote for Ralph Long III.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Long.
So, Mr. Kemp, closing statement, please.
Yes, thank you so much for hosting this debate. Unlike my opponent, I wanted to be here. I stand for a different type of politics. My opponent called a third party and asked them to ask me not to come to this forum. We need to change the politics and the tone that we have within our community. We need representatives that are going to stand up and speak up for our community and show up when our community asks. This is important. If I would have listened to what my opponent wanted me to do and to ask me not to attend, you would not hear from us today. Yes, these are very important issues. And let me be clear, you don't have to question where I stand on charter schools because I support them. I'm a former high school principal of a charter school. My opponent voted for charter schools. So I'm not somebody that's going to flip-flop on issues. In addition to that, connections are important. I do not have a record of threatening colleagues in the Capitol. Stacey Abrams had to call the sergeant of arms because of a situation with my opponent. It's important that our community knows the people that are running to represent them, and it's time for us to change the tone and tenor. I am a candidate that's running for this race because I'm passionate about our community. I've shown that through my years of service in education. I've shown that through my years of service in the community, having served as an NPU president, having been active with my fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and more so, I'm running as a dad because my children, their lives are at stake. My children want to grow up in an environment in which they can make decisions about their bodies, that they can learn the true history of our community and our state. And more importantly, we need to have healthcare access south of I-20. We need to address the disparities that exist within this district. We do that by addressing root issues such as healthcare disparities, education disparities. And I fully believe that I am the best candidate to do that and serve you, to be a voice in the room, because that's what we need. RaShaun Kemp, June 8th through 14th, and on June 18th.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Kemp. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just again heard from two qualified candidates vying to serve as the next state senator for District 38 here in Georgia. The elected state senator will serve a 4-year term that begins January 2025 and will end December 2028. 2-year term, excuse me. Their future lies in your hands. As a constituent, as a voter of Fulton County, it is our hope that you will use your vote as your voice to elect fair representation. I want to give you some dates that are very important concerning this election and all elections. June 10th through the 14th will be primary runoff elections for early voting. June 18th is primary runoff election. October 15th through November 1st is early voting in person begins. October 25th is the last day to request an absentee ballot. October 19th and 26th are Saturday voting. October 20th and 27th is Sunday voting. November 5th is the general election, and December 3rd, general election runoff if necessary.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard from qualified candidates who are running for the District 38 Senate seat. And as a resident of Georgia, as a resident of this district, you owe it to yourself, your family, your neighbors, to elect the next qualified candidate to serve as a public servant of this great district. I want to leave you with this in closing. Be an educated and informed voter. Know before you go. Know who is on your ballot. Know what is on your ballot. I'm going to say that again. Know what is on your ballot. Know when to vote and know where to vote. But more so than anything, exercise your right to vote. I'm going to turn the forum back over to Ms. Damita Chatman, and we want to thank you so much for joining us this evening, both our in-person and our virtual audiences.
I want to thank everyone for coming. Thank the candidates. Thank you, candidate Kemp. Thank you, candidate Long. We're going to be taking some pictures after this with you guys.
Yes,
This is the only time I take pictures with you, and it's not endorsement.
Yes.
Mr. Kemp heard that line before. But first, before we do that, I want to thank all the elected officials, Natasha Williams, City Council of City of South Fulton, the newly elected Robert Dawson for District 65. Robert, I want you, if you don't mind, I need you to get that box back there for me, please. I want to thank Pastor McNeary for allowing us to come into his house. It has been just outstanding. It's not about Damita Chatman. It is about making sure we get the right people in office. And so I want to thank my camera crew. They're the best. I'm gonna say it again. They're the best. They're here early and they leave late. I leave them here. But let me say this, I'm gonna call the pastor of this house up first, and that's Pastor McNeary. Didn't want this, I wanted him to hold on, but you know, that's my son from another mother. And I know he'll get a little hyper. Pastor Chris, let me say this to you. I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart because you was a God sent. That's all I'm gonna say. But thank you so much. Robert, I'm gonna ask you to come back up here because he's taking pictures. David's taking pictures. Would you come back up here for me? You have been just great. Hung in there with us. And so I want to thank you. But this is a little token.
Congratulations.
For me. And I don't want folks to say that we're taking money. This come out of my household. And so me and my husband household. But Pastor, this is what I got you. And it's for you. I'm not gonna take everybody's out. I'm just gonna call them up and give it. But I know we had a couple of candidates, and I try to get some, and you had asked me a question about doing a scrapbook. But we're gonna do a scrapbook, but we also put some pictures in the frame for you to put in your office of some of the candidate forms that we had. And thank you so much. Just thank you. That's all I'm gonna say. Just thank you. And the next one I'm gonna call up, I'm gonna call Mr. Downstairs. I'm gonna call Mr. O up, please, Mr. O. I know he trying to, I should have put this in. Okay. I know he's trying to figure out is he gonna get his peach cobbler. Come on, Mr. O. Mr. O. I wanna thank you so much because I didn't even call him. He called me. And so we're partnered now. Thank you, Mr. O. And I'm gonna tell y'all, if y'all want him, y'all got to come through the manager. I'm gonna be his manager. Thank you, Mr. O. Thank you. I love you. Just thank you. And you gonna enjoy that food. I know you're ready. Yeah, I got your peach cobbler, Mr. O. I got your peach cobbler. It ain't no good, but I got it. I'm going to ask Miss Jazz to come up. She is a member of this church. Miss Jazz has been just awesome, helping us, coming in, making sure everything is set up. And I just want to give her something to let her know that we appreciate her. I know I caught you off guard. Come on. And I know it's Caribbean history, Heritage Month, and you gotta list something down there. I know you don't eat meat, but I got something for you. They told me stop advertising the food because it's just for we gonna see. thank you, Miss Jazz. We got Mr. Green. Come on, Mr. Green. This the one keep me in line. Yeah, Mr. Green, where he at? I think this is him. That's Miss Queen. This is Mr. Green. All right, Mr. Green. He keeps me in line and he joke with me. And so thank you for being my friend, Mr. Green. Thank you. I'm gonna learn that accent you got there. Miss Rice, she's special. Miss Beverly Rice, come on, she's special. She come all the way from Atlanta to support me. And I'm gonna say it, so y'all might as well get mad when I got folks right here in the city of South Fulton won't support me. So I want to thank God for Beverly Rice. You know, when God send you an angel, you got to give off flowers. So thank you so much, Miss Rice. Thank you. Miss Queen down there, making sure that food. So I'm going to get, well, no, I'm gonna give hers. I want to, this one is for Christina, Pastor Christina Chavis. I need you to come up, Christina Chavis. Come on, Christina. She was on the other form. So yeah, come on, Christine. This is the one that that's the way, this is the one that keep me prayed up, and every morning she got me on the prayer line, and when I get off track, she calls me. So thank you for being that mentor and keeping me covered in the blood. So I want to thank Christina. I call her Christina. Who is this? Okay, that she ain't here yet. She coming, she be here, so we're gonna leave it. And Queen, but let me tell y'all, Kathy and Joe, I'm gonna take care of y'all because I made a boo-boo, but y'all right here, so we gonna see y'all again in November. I want to thank I want to thank all you guys for coming, for just being listeners to this, because this is very important. And whoever we put in office got to represent us. And so in closing, I'm going to tell these two candidates, I don't know who's going to win next week, whenever the election is. But if you do win, whoever win, that go for Long, that go for Kemp, you going to hear from me. And some days I come real smooth. And then some days I come and I be ready to raise a whole lot of hell. So you get ready. Don't take it personal. You know, sometimes elected officials, they take things personal. We ain't taking it personal. We just, oh, I'm gonna look back at you too. No, don't get jealous. I want you to listen. I am not gonna get you. I want you to be ready, okay? Yes. And I told you, I said, I don't want, if you get in office, I ain't saying you're going to get in there, but if you get in that office, I don't want you just think about Atlanta. You got city of South Fulton out here. Okay, I just want you to, I want you to be aware of that now, because I'm coming after you Long if you do. Okay. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Chris. And again, I want to thank you so much for just being that person. But wait, my husband, he got something, I don't know where he is at, but he got, I couldn't buy y'all nothing and buy him. He done took it out the box. Yeah, he done took it out. But again, I want to thank my husband for being so supportive of me, whatever I do. That man gonna be right there by my side. And when I act up, he gonna get me in trouble. He gonna tell me. So again, I want to thank Mr. Chatman. So I'm going to turn it over to Pastor Chris.
All right. Thank you, Sister Chatman, and thank you all for being here and for coming. I'm turning this way so that I can face the moderators and these candidates. But for all of you and all of us to be able to say that we are about raising community standards. And one of the things that we seek to do here at Decision Point Ministries is to make sure that we are not just representatives of what we say we are, but we are who we say we are. So I want to share something here and share a couple of things here in closing for the forums during this season. One of those is that there are no more Easter egg hunts at this church. We lift up the name of Jesus. And then secondly, I want to share this is that it's very, very important for us to be praying for the bodies of Christ in this season. This forum is in a church facility, and that's not by coincidence. That collaboration is very important. Everybody that's talking about heaven ain't going there. Let me let that set a second. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, it's the reminder to all of us. So as we've done to the least of these, we've got to know who the least of these are so we can do the right thing for the least of these. And so that's the challenge for those who are public office holders, for those of us who hold ourselves out as ministers of the gospel and as missionaries and as people who are Christ followers. And so we go down from this place with that. I'm also going to pray as I pray and bless the food that is going to be partaken downstairs. And so remember the least of these. Father, we just thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to collaborate with each other. Thank you to God for this community and for even this district, District 38, that is so very important with a diversity of peoples. But Father, we do recognize that there's one God, one Lord, and one faith. And Father, we do recognize that you call us to follow Christ. And so, Father, I pray that as we go down from this place, that we will lift up community standards. Now we thank you for the love, the fellowship, the friendships that have been kindled. We thank you, Father, for even the expression of that in the breaking of bread together. Nothing more closer binding brothers and sisters together than breaking bread together. So we invoke your blessings upon what we partake of and the time together. In Jesus' name, amen.
So good seeing you. Good job. Thank you.
All right, all right.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
All right, all right.
All right, brother. All right. Come on, man. He's a junior.
Come on, let's get some pics.
Yeah.
Everything all right? Yes, sir. All right. Hey, how you doing? Let us
I'll find you later. How you doing?
pictures. Come on, y'all guys.
Good to see you, sir. Good to see you. Southwest Metro, South Metro. How you doing? Okay.
Okay, is that right?
Yeah, there we go. That's right.
Come on in here.
Oh, okay.